What's up, YouTube? This is Biblical Truther. Man, have I got some stuff to tell you guys today. Yesterday, my wife and I went out and going shopping for some things. And we got on the subject of the restrainer in the book of Revelations. And, you know, pre-trib rapture and all that sort of thing. And I mentioned to her that I thought the Queen of England was the restrainer. And I don't know, I think it was Logic Before Authority did a video about King Harry, who is ironically now the King of Canada. You know, and the armies of the north come and destroy Mystery Babylon. But anyway, I woke up this morning and my wife's showing me some stuff, and I'm gonna put all these links in the description if I can figure out how to do that. I'm pretty sure I know, but anyway, we have the Messiah. Yes, you heard that right. The Messiah has been revealed. No rapture. So for all those Christians that think that they'll never see the Antichrist, well, that pretty much proves that all that fake doctrine we've been taught for the last 200 years is just that, fake doctrine. Back in the Battle of Waterloo in 1812, the Rothschilds beat and bankrupt England. But they made a treaty with them for 200 years. They would back them and leave them sitting on the throne. Well, if you start digging into it, the Queen of England has disappeared. The seal on the front gates of Nottingham Palace has been removed. And it's just funny because the rapture doctrine started around the 1800s, according to some of my research. It's only been around for a couple hundred years, and ironically that's when the Queen of England was overthrown. That the fake history that they tell us, they don't tell us that part. But anyway, on December 31st of last year, there was some documents that went around that affirmed that Gregory Joseph Talbot is the seed of David and the rightful heir of the throne of Israel. Every president, from Trump to Putin to the Chinese government to just about every one of them, has signed these documents. The Pope removed his title of Vicar of Christ because this guy Gregory now has that title. He is Christ, not the Vicar of Christ. He is Christ, according to these people. And you can go on Twitter. Twitter is blowing up with this man, and a lot of people saying that they believe that he is the Messiah. And these were people that, you know, Q followers actually. Q is backing this man as being the Messiah, which I told you in previous videos that, you know, QAnon is not Christian because they do not mention Jesus. They mention God, but they don't mention Jesus. There's some rumors saying that this man was Q. It's very possible. Don't know that for sure, but the seal on these documents just happens to be a white rabbit. And what's Q been telling us for almost 4 years now, 3 years at least? Follow the white rabbit. And these documents is sealed in blood. And what Satan required most of his followers to do, sign them documents in blood for all your wealth and fame. It's great. Now Tuesday I made a video about the statues being removed in Alabama. Everybody knows about the whole statues being removed all over the Gulf South and pretty much around the country. But they took these statues down but left the bases up. And why is that? What are they going to put in their place? You don't have to go back and watch that video. I'll just touch on it right now. Why did they leave the bases of all these statues? Well, I pretty much believe now, and I feel in my spirit, God is telling me that this fake Messiah is going to have his image put right in their place. It's crazy, man. It's crazy times. All these things were affirmed in 2012. 2012 was when the Rothschild England Pact was null and void, but they've left, the Queen there just as a figurehead for the last, 7 years. But now she's disappeared. The sons have found new places to dwell. There's just a lot of stuff, revolving around this that just all points to this right now. This is the Antichrist. In these documents, it says that all the prophecies were fulfilled in this man. I'm still looking for the mortal head wound part. Haven't found that yet because nobody's ever heard of this man's name before, which is kind of the plan on their part. But if Trump comes out and starts touting this man as the Messiah, which I haven't seen the actual Q posts or anything like that stating that Q is behind them, but there are rumors saying that Q is supporting this man as the Messiah. And I've been telling a lot of people this for years before I even got on YouTube. I think I even did it in that QAnon Christian video. He talks about God. He mentions Ephesians 6 quite often, but never does he mention Jesus. Well, I think we know why now. Because they don't believe that Jesus was the Messiah. Trump don't believe that Jesus was the Messiah. He talks about God. He even looks up to the heavens in that one press conference saying that he is the chosen one. And he's got so many Christians backing him, thinking that God put him in place, which God does raise up kings and tear them down to accomplish his will. So maybe Trump was God's way of weeding out the lukewarm Christians. I started a video the other day and I didn't put it up on YouTube. Basically getting into 2 Timothy. Hold on, I still got my little notes right here. 2 Timothy 2:15. Study to show thyself approved unto God, a workman that needeth not be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth, but shun profane and vain babblings, for they will increase unto more ungodliness. And what I was intending to put in that video is basically this dispensationalism doctrine where they are King James only churches. They do not want you looking into all the extra biblical texts that were once in our Bible that is now canonized by the Roman Catholic Church, who willingly gave up his title of the Vicar of Christ. But they were removed from our Bible. And, those include the Book of Jubilees, Jasher, the Book of Enoch, which is probably the most talked about or talked against book that was removed, because it tells us and expounds on Genesis 6 on who these angels were, what they taught to mankind, how they tried to get Enoch to speak on their behalf because they knew he was a true man of God and talked to God. I even went into the whole flat earth thing, and I can ask you the questions right now, being I didn't upload that video, but NASA tells us that the earth rotates at 1,000 miles an hour. So if I'm flying east to west in a commercial airliner doing an average 560 to 600 miles an hour, once you get off the ground, you're going to end up going your speed, however fast them engines push you. So how are you going to catch that runway in California doing 560 miles an hour to an earth that's rotating 1,000? This is all the high God, all the globe earth cosmology and whatnot. Same thing north and south. If you're flying north and south and the earth is rotating 1,000 miles an hour, how are you going to catch that runway in a plane? It's just not possible. Physics tells you you can't land a plane doing average landing speed, say 200 miles an hour, but your earth is spinning 1,000 miles an hour. How are you going to catch that runway? It's just not possible. All this stuff is meant to hide the true God, hide all these extra biblical texts that just, by the grace of God were found in the Dead Sea Scrolls. Now, Paul wrote, "Study to show yourself approved unto God." But yet you got all these Freemasonic tied preachers teaching and preaching against all these books because they don't want you to know these things. They don't want you to know that we are the center of God's creation. There's nothing rotating around us. The book of Enoch tells you exactly how God built this earth, what it looks like, how it's held up by the pillars, how there's a dome over this earth with portals or windows in heaven. The book of Jasher talks about Abraham when he took Isaac up on the mountain. Our canonized version don't really tell you much about that other than the fact that an angel stopped him from sacrificing Isaac. But if you read the book of Jasher, Isaac knew full well what they were going up on that mountain to do. It also expounds on how Satan tried to stop them from going up there because, he just didn't want these true men of God. I'm sorry, it's Joseph Gregory Hallett. That's his name. But anyway, I had it backwards. But it's just crazy that, Isaac had just as much faith as Abraham. Isaac told his father to bind him tight because he didn't want to be an unacceptable sacrifice unto God. He didn't want to squirm and move and be declared, an unfit sacrifice. So he knew full well. Now they didn't tell his mother, because they knew that she would not, out of the love that women have and all, that she just wouldn't approve of that. But Abraham knew to show God his faithfulness that he would have to do this. And Isaac knew, and Isaac was more than willing to be that sacrifice. But nobody knows that because 90% of our churches in America tell you not to read these books. The book of Jubilees talks about you just have to read it for yourself. Study. Show yourself approved. But this man, Joseph Gregory, I guess is his name. I told y'all Gregory Joseph. But dig into this. I'm going to put the links that we've been looking at in the description. And that white rabbit thing, man, that just blows me away. Now the QAnon and the QAnon army, they're supposedly claiming to be the knights for this man. So now he's got the greatest military known to man as his enforcing arm. And if you don't think America's Mystery Babylon, just think about those statues. Think about what happened in Daniel 6 with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Nebuchadnezzar erected all of these different monuments unto himself. He claimed that he was the god at the time. And I think it was 3 times out of the day there was this trumpet or an instrument that sounded and everybody was required to bow down to his image. Well, this particular day he noticed 3 men still standing once everybody bowed down to his image, and that was Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. So he had them basically secured, captured, and thrown into the furnace. Well, 3 days later, Nebuchadnezzar noticed there was 4 people walking around in the fire of that furnace. They were not dead. And in the Bible, it says one looked like the Son of God, an angel, protecting them from the fire because they had faith enough in the real, true God not to bow down to an idol, to a man. And they were put to death. Well, tried to put to death. And God protected them. Well, we're in the end times, and God's going to place that protection upon his faithful. So I pray you guys that believe in this pre-trib rapture garbage, don't fall away from the faith. Just admit and humble yourself that you've been fooled into believing this stuff, because they can twist the words of the Bible to make an argument for just about anything, because the Bible is so multifaceted. God was so intelligently designed this Bible to mean multiple things at the same time within the same scripture. So just humble yourselves and admit that you were wrong for following this man's doctrine. And don't lose your faith behind this. God is with you if you are his true followers. I am a true follower. He has saved my life so many times. I got this whole legal pad right here. This is every time I've almost died, one of which is when I died. I was on Central Banker's live stream the other day, and I happened to mention it, and he wanted me to expound on it. So I said I would make a video about it, because also I had mentioned it on J.K. Bugout's channel on his live stream. No, that's who wanted me to expound on it, was him. So I did in the chat. I wrote a good little bit about it, you know, because when I had died, I got hit by a drunk driver at 9 years old. My bicycle frame was bent almost on a 45-degree angle. The cop said that, you know, when he brought it to the hospital, I was walking out of the hospital, the emergency room, when he got there, and he was looking for the kid who was riding the bike. And I said, that was me. He was like, ain't no way. Whatever kid was riding this bike is missing a leg. Because where the bumper hit, the corner of the bumper hit right above my sprocket. Didn't have a broken bone in my body. But that particular day, and this is the glory of God, I was told the day before to stop going over to this pond. It was a duck pond. And I used to go over there and chase ducks, go swimming, you know, just typical 9-year-old kid stuff. And there was a boat landing that I had to pass, and they just so happened to have a church group there that were baptizing people in the pond. And I rode right past them, went on down, because this pond had like a little peninsula with a trail where people went out and fished. So I rode down there and was doing my normal thing, chasing ducks, playing, swimming. On my way back out of that trail, everything went black. And I remember walking what I call the outer darkness now, because I was far from being saved back then. I was walking in this darkness. I couldn't see my body, but I can remember looking around and walking. And then, don't know how long, I didn't have no conception of time, don't know how long I was in there, but I woke up in the back of one of these people's truck. And there was an all-black congregation, just to throw that out there, just to show that racism is not rampant in America. But I woke up in the bed of these people's truck, and I jumped up, jumped over the side, and they're just telling me, calm down, you know. Some of them, they were all praying when I opened my eyes. There was about 10 of them around the bed of the truck, and they were all hands, you know, clasped together, praying. And I jumped up, looked around, all I seen was black people, and I'll expound on that, you know, where my mindset was at that age because of my stepdad. But anyway, I jumped out the truck, and they were like, calm down, stop, you know, the ambulance is on the way. And I was like, for what? So they brought me to the mirror, the side mirror of the truck, and was like, look at your face. And from here to about my kneecap on my right side, I had just road rash down the whole side of my body. They told me when that truck hit me, I went up about 20 feet in the air, 60 feet down the road. I just hit the ground face first and endoed. Now, ironically enough, when I was walking through this darkness, I felt the impact. It was like an energy wave that just went through me. So I believe that was the point where I hit the ground. But anyway, they were praying. I believe I was prayed back to life, because they was pretty sure I was dead. If I weren't dead, I don't know. I was knocked out, but they said that that I was dead. But anyway, I jumped up, jumped out the truck looking for my bike, and they showed me this road rash, and then a few minutes later the ambulance showed up, and then I went to the hospital, not a broken bone in my body. All I had was road rash on the side of my body. I call that a miracle. They said this guy was doing about 55 when he hit me. And a 9-year-old little boy getting hit by a full-size Dodge truck doing 55 miles an hour should have done some damage. It's not the only time I've been in a car wreck, freak car wreck, and walked away with just mere scratches. So I don't know what the Lord has planned for me yet, but my wife, she has visions and dreams, and I believe they are from the Lord. One of which was a penguin with a gold seal on his chest from New Zealand, and it was kind of like the Antichrist being revealed to her. And it just so happens that Mr. Joseph George Talbot was born in New Zealand. Just ironic. But anyway, she's also had visions of us being lined up, you know, going up, getting beheaded at the guillotines that Obama ordered years ago that nobody wants to believe. 30,000 of them. CIA documents showing that they bought, I think, 100,000 or 1,000,000, I forget the exact number, but there was replacement blades for these guillotines. So best believe they're going to be used in the United States. And for whatever reason, I was the first in line. And I was happy about it. Happy. Because you got to remember, what are they doing? You know, they're going to threaten us to denounce Jesus Christ, to worship this man. But what are they threatening us with? Death? They're threatening us with going to heaven? Are you crazy? Would you not say with a smile, Jesus Christ is King? This dude ain't shit. Excuse my French. But please don't believe this stuff. All you people that believe in the pre-trib rapture, don't let that be the great falling away that Jesus prophesied, because I've said it before in a video. I believe this is going to do it. Only the real faithful, the ones that studied these extra biblical texts to expound their knowledge of the Bible, only those faithful are not going to be deceived. These are going to be the elect. I'm not saying I'm part of the elect, because I'm still far from perfect. But don't be deceived by this man. Jesus Christ came and died for our sins. This guy is coming to be worshipped. He's not coming to die for us, to reconcile us back to God. He's coming to be worshipped as God. And if you read, and I think it's in one of these descriptions that I'm going to put up. Man, I'm sorry, a phone just rang and I lost my train of thought. Oh, a poem that this man wrote, basically kind of preaching the New Age stuff, you know, vibrations and blah blah blah, you know, and it's all about him, you know, and it's just him to be worshipped. And speaking of the New Age stuff, this is some of the stuff that they're putting on Twitter and all. His astrological sign is the Caduceus. He is embodied by the Kundalini spirit. And this is what the New Agers are saying about this man. The Lord let me get into the whole New Age thing as well. And I was gung-ho with it. John X Army, I'm the man that started that with you. You wanted me to come on a live stream and expound on this New Age stuff. And I refused because I didn't have the documentation to back it up. And at the time I was wrong. And then you went off changing your name to High Vibrations and all that stuff. And I felt responsible for that. And I apologize. But you're coming back, man, and I like that. But don't be preaching the wrong Jesus Christ. Because the book of Thomas, you know, that the New Agers are saying that just proves the whole Bible wrong. Well, it hasn't been around very long either. And why is it only one Gospel of Thomas that talks about all the New Age stuff that they're preaching? So I pray you guys don't be fooled by this. Don't lose your faith because the Messiah, the fake Messiah, has been revealed and no rapture has taken place. Because in my opinion, if Jesus Christ came and died and suffered the way he did for us, it's pretty arrogant for us to think that we're not going to have to suffer for his name's sake, which is exactly what he says is going to take place. In Revelations, it talks about, the beheaded ones that, were killed for the testimony of Jesus Christ. So be one of those. Do not lose your faith behind a man who wants to be worshipped as God. And get rid of QAnon. Get your faith out of Trump. He is not here to save us. There's only one that's going to save us, and that's Jesus Christ. In his name and his name only are we saved. In his name and his name only is the only name under heaven that holds that power. So don't be fooled by these people, man. Stand up for him. Stand up for him. Because there's plenty of prophecies in the Old Testament that talk about his death and how he was beaten and how he was crucified and hung on a tree and all these things that this man isn't going to fulfill, because I don't see him being beaten and crucified and hung on a tree for us. Oh, one more tidbit of information. The book of Enoch, Jesus Christ called himself the Son of Man, and the only book in the extra biblical text that refers to him as that is the book of Enoch. So that, I think, is Jesus Christ's little tidbit to say, hey, go read the book of Enoch. It explains everything. So do your due diligence and study, because this man is going to deceive the whole world. There's already Christians talking about him, believing in him, because QAnon said so. I'm going to find that about QAnon, that where he's touting this man to be the Messiah, but right now I don't have it. And I'm still trying to teach myself about the screen sharing crap on my laptop and whatnot, because I bought a laptop to do that on, and, well, I just had some problems with it. But stand up, be that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Stand up for Christ, not Joseph Talbot, that, every president in the world has signed saying, yes, he is the Messiah. Don't be fooled, man. Don't be fooled. I'm out.